Medfield. Welcome to the newest happenings at the Medfield, in Medfield, and also specifically at Medfield Town Hall. We're going to do things a little bit different today. First of all, I would like to show everybody the scarf, which will be available, and many like it, at Medfield Day at booth number 67, I think, at the head of the pond on North Street. And all the money from these scarves goes to the Cancer Society. So it's a free scarf if you donate. That's number one thing. Number two thing, I asked Mike to do something a little different. He and I had dinner a few weeks ago, and we started talking about things we remembered about Town Hall over the years. So today, he will be reviewing what happened recently at Town Hall and what's exciting, and then we're going to go right into Town Hall memories and town meeting memories and see what comes up. So Mike,
Sure. Well, there's been a lot happening this summer. It's been an unusually busy summer. But first, there's a couple of things I want to mention. One is the drought. Everyone received postcards by now, although they did take 12 days to get there. But we do have enforcement now, actions being taken for the water ban. Good. We are limited to 1 day a week watering between 9 p.m. and 5 a.m. You're not allowed to water between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. And people may wonder why. I understand half to two-thirds of the water you put out during those hours evaporates, so you're really not getting the value of the water you're putting down, and that's why we restrict the watering between 9 p.m. and 5 a.m. You can, I believe it's odd on Mondays and even on Thursdays. So, and a few people have asked, well, am I odd or even? And if you're a home address,
whether you're odd or not.
I already know the answer. I already know your answer to that one. If your house has an odd number at the address, you're an odd. If your house has an even number to the address, you're even.
I would have thought it was fairly obvious.
Well, it is, I think, to most people, but some people are not quite sure. They want to make sure. And you can water with a hose handheld. You just cannot use sprinklers, but again, it has to be after 5 p.m. and before 9 a.m. You're not allowed to do any hand watering during the daytime.
Right, makes sense.
Again, for the same reasons. People seem to be complying with it. I was talking to our new public works director, Mo Goulet, and he was saying that the consumption now is down to about 900,000 to 1 million gallons a day.
That's much better.
Much better. That's about what the winter consumption is. So now on the 2 days a week when watering is allowed, it goes up to about 1.5 million, 1.6 million. Excuse me, 2.5 million.
2 million.
2 million. Nope, excuse me, 1.5 million, 5.6 million. I've got but people are complying, and testimony to that, you can see the brown lawns all over town. And what do they say? Brown is beautiful when it comes to lawns. They are going to give warning tickets out first, and then it's a $25 fine. The first offense, $50 fine, the second offense, and a $100 fine for the third and each additional offense. And they will be issuing tickets. The police have books because they are around during the night when you might have potential violators that would violate it during the nighttime, figuring they wouldn't get caught. We also have had people calling in that get up the early morning rises that walk around and see evidence of sprinklers going.
I've called people, I have to admit.
Yes, yeah. So, but I would like to thank the people for the cooperation we are getting. The predictions are that this drought could go on at least until October. And they said it was the driest July since they've been keeping records in the city of Boston. And I think our August is on target to be the first or second driest since they've been keeping records. So, And of course now we're moving into hurricane season, so hopefully we won't get any hurricanes, although Concord the other day had a tornado. It was very unusual. The other thing I did want to mention, besides the drought restrictions on watering, was the Board of Health had a notification this week that there was a mosquito sampling that tested positive for West Nile virus in the town of Dover. Now, it's a moderate risk. We're in the moderate risk category at this time. There have been no cases in this area of horses or people testing positive for West Nile. It's only been mosquito samples, which is good. And part of it is because it has been so dry. We don't have the usual bumper crop of mosquitoes around. But I talked to the director of Norfolk County Mosquito Control, and he said that the ones that really are most at risk are your elderly, because they, as you get older, your immune system weakens, and you're more susceptible to, in terms of the severity of the infection. And I said, what can you do for it? Do they give antibiotics? And he said, no, it's a virus. You just have to ride it out. There is no treatment for it. So, it's not a crisis, but we should take precautions in terms of going outdoors during the early morning and evening hours. You should have some sort of protection, long sleeve shirts, put DEET on your exposed areas and things like that. So, back to what's been going on in town this summer, an awful lot. We have a new public works director who started August 1st, Mo Goulet, and he's seems to be tackling the job head on and really doing well.
He's going to come and be interviewed by me when he said when he gets a little more settled. I asked him
Good.
if he could
Good, yeah.
talk about how hard it is to follow Ken Feeney, who was very good, and Billy McCarthy, who was one of my old friends.
Yeah.
He's following it.
I have talked to him. He's very impressed with the caliber of the highway and all the Department of Highway, Water, and Sewer employees. He said they really are top notch. So, and then we have also hired a facilities manager, and we're doing the same thing with facilities that we did with the IT, Information Technology Department. We are sort of combining it with town and school. So we're going to have one person who will be in charge of the facilities, energy management for both town and school.
Who is this person?
His name is Jerry McCarty. He is a resident of Walpole. He's currently facilities manager for the town of Weston.
Oh, okay.
So he'll be starting part-time in October and then full-time in November.
And he's replacing Andrew Seaman?
And Alan Peterson.
Oh, okay.
So
okay.
that's why we were able to do this. It was a rare opportunity when both positions were vacant.
Get one for the price of two.
Yes. Well, not quite.
Not quite?
That's why we had to combine it. The good facilities manager doesn't come cheap these days. We were lucky to have Andrew when we had him. He managed to get a lot of things going, and he's relocating to Philadelphia. And
I told him what areas in Philadelphia to buy in.
Yes, that's right. You are a native, so.
I certainly was.
But it's a lot of things going. This week we opened bids for the solar panels on the roof of the town garage. So they're evaluating the bids now, and they hope to make an award on at the next selectmen's meeting. If we're able to get that done by January 8th, which we expect, we will qualify for the current SREC program. SREC stands for Solar Renewable Energy Credits. And it's a program the state has where for every megawatt of solar or alternative energy, solar or wind, that you generate, you get an SREC credit. And they are almost like stock certificates. The state pays them to the qualified recipients quarterly, and you can sell them. And the value right now is running, I think, around $280 per credit. As of this morning, the plant, the system solar array at the treatment plant went online mid-April, and so far we've generated 118 megawatts, which is, I did a rough calculation, is over $30,000 we're already entitled to. So now that will drop in the winter, obviously, when you don't have as many hours of sunlight and the sun isn't as strong, but we're hoping to get close to 300,000 kilowatts or 300 megawatts in a year from the plant. So, and that would be, somewhere in excess of $75,000 for that amount. So that more than pays for the debt service. So that was a very good investment that we made. Plus we get the electricity savings at the treatment plant. And then when we generate more electricity than we need to run the plant, it feeds back into the grid, and we get credits on our electricity bill for that too. So overall, it's a very good investment. As a result, the town meeting voted to transfer some of the funds left over from the treatment plant solar array to put solar panels on the roof of the town garage. And we opened bids on that this week, received 2 bids. And the low bid is the same company that did the installation down the treatment plant. So, it was within the amount. The town meeting appropriated $390,000 to do that. So I think we will have it there. That'll be about a 150 kilowatt system. And then we're also putting solar panels on the flat part of the roof of the new public safety building. That'll be a much smaller system because it's only basically where the fire trucks, fire equipment are. The rest of the roof has peaks. So we'll have 3 solar facilities in town. We are looking at purchasing from a solar farm that is proposed to be built in the town of Freetown. Whether we'll go ahead with that or not is it's a little different. So we're looking into that to see whether we should buy into that project. You have to commit for 20 years, which is one of the problems. In addition, we've had an awful lot of work going on this summer, and everything should be going so smoothly. I keep waiting for something to go wrong. The public safety building, as you can see, is almost done. It's about 85% complete. They were scheduled, the general contractor scheduled to have it completed by October 1st. October 8th. They're probably about a week ahead of schedule, so they may well be done by beginning of October. Then it will take some time for the police and fire departments to move back, but the chiefs are planning on having an open house for the community to see what the heck has been going on and what all that space is in the building. So I think people are generally pleased with it. It might not have a finished look because, as the chief points out, they can't get a lawn going in there because of the drought. They can't water the grass to take, so it may look a little ragged on the outside for a while until we get some rain, and then we can put the lawn in. So, but that's I think it's a real nice addition for the town. I think we got a good price on it when we compare it to what other towns are paying now that went out to bid after we did. We got a good general contractor, a good architect. It really has gone smoothly. A lot of credit for that goes to the Permanent Planning and Building Committee and to the 2 chiefs. They've really worked hard on this and done a terrific job. Elsewhere in town, the Wheelock School boiler is just about done. They want to flush out the lines before they turn it on throughout the rest of the school. But they started that in about the day after school got out. They had asbestos to remove and then take out the old boilers and put in the new boilers, and that's going very well. It's an outfit from Bellingham, I believe, that's doing the work, or Bellingham or Medway. But they've been doing a nice job on that.
And I heard from my grandson the football field and the track is on base. It's doing well.
Football field was scheduled to be done today, I believe, or yesterday. The track won't be done because of other work that the contractor that's going to do the work on the track has. It's going to be about 2 weeks before he can get in and do it. But that isn't as extensive. That's basically there'll be some cutting out where they had to dig for the drainage, to put the drainage in, and then repair that and then spray another coating on the track. But the track, they're hoping it to be ready by, I think the first game is the 7th of September. I think it's a field hockey game. And they're hoping that we'll be ready for that.
I hope so too. Sports are wonderful, high school sports in particular.
Yes.
If they beat Dover Sherman. That's my all 6 of my kids played high school sports. But it was always beat Dover.
Beat Dover. And I thought it was also beat Duxbury. Isn't that the other big arch rival?
But then one of my sons married a girl from Duxbury, so that changed.
But they always seem to be rivals in lacrosse and soccer.
Yeah,
those two big sports.
At the upper levels.
Yeah. So we finished Green Street. There's a couple of things that need to be done, but essentially that's finished. That came out very nice with the curbings. I think it really separates the sidewalk from the traffic, and it's a big improvement there. Paved North Meadows Road, that was from West Street to the Sherburne line. And paved Hospital Road. The water tower is now in service. That was after a long delay. That was supposed to be done, I think, originally in November. And then company got way behind schedule, so we now have to negotiate delay damages with them because we had some additional costs associated with the project because they didn't finish when they were scheduled. So we have to look in to see what we can recover from them in terms of a payment. But the water tower, of course, as you know, we had a leak in it when they first filled it up, and it was good that it was detected then because they were able to repair it under the terms of the general contract. So that's now operational, and we want to see how much savings in electricity we can generate from not having to pump it all the way to Mount Nebo. You know, we'll still have to pump some to Mount Nebo, but with the 2 towers, a lot of the water will have a much shorter trip, so we should see some savings in electricity. So it's been a very busy summer between hiring and projects going on all over town, and it's usually the summer slows down a bit. This summer, I'd say, has been worse than ever. So we are now looking at getting bids out for the cell towers on top of the new water tower now that it's in service. So hope to get those out in the next couple of weeks. Yes, yeah. So, but that's pretty much it. I think school's opening next week. Yep. We'll see how that goes. I understand there's been some changes in the bus schedule, where all the elementary school kids are going to go on the same bus. The schools are going to start at the same time, so they don't have to run 2 bus runs. So we'll see how that works out. It's
working to have that staggered schedule that they used to have.
Yes.
It's much harder.
Yeah.
I was lucky because all 6 of my kids could walk to school.
Yeah, you were lucky, yes.
It was only a mile and a half to the junior high school and the senior high school, and that wasn't bad.
Yep.
Wheelock School wasn't open when my kids were in school. So they had the Memorial School and the Dale Street School, so they were very lucky they didn't need of us.
Right out your backyard.
Yeah,
So,
no, but it was wonderful to be, even the mile and a half walk isn't a bad deal.
yes.
It's great,
yeah,
good for the kids.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Especially at that age, they don't mind walking, and they're very good at it at that age. I'm surprised they didn't run.
But it was
your
social.
kids.
A lot of their friends
yes.
would bring come down Pine Street and leave
Sure.
their bikes in our driveway, in our barn,
Yeah.
and they'd all walk down together.
Yeah.
It was good.
And now your grandchildren are in the school, so.
Yes, they are.
Okay, well, you wanted to go back to talk about the old days
When
town
we talk
meeting.
about town meeting, when I moved here in the middle 60s, town meeting usually ran 3 nights, once in a while it'd be 4 or 5, sometimes 2, but it was always several nights.
And
And since then, we have changed things. We have the consent calendar, which has made it so a lot of the simpler articles are all grouped together,
Right.
and that makes it much faster. And then we have the capital budget committee. Any major items, construction-related items that anybody wants to do, go on that thing. So you bundle them all together, you can compare them all, and there's a capital budget committee that looks at them first.
It
So
has.
that really, really helped.
It has made it a lot more efficient, and as a result, we're able to get through it one night. But now, and I'm sure you remember this, when I first came to town, the town meetings were held at the Dale Street School. The auditorium.
Yep.
But then it was determined that the Dale Street School was not handicapped accessible, and it was too small. So they moved it to the high school gymnasium. And it's been there ever since, with the exception of one unfortunate year when we had it at the high school, the new high school auditorium, and there were a couple of strategic things that we didn't take account of. One was that, at town meeting, the way the seats are laid out, there's the same number of seats in every row. But in the auditorium of the high school, every row has a different number of seats.
Right.
So when you're trying to do a count, it's very difficult.
Yes, it is.
And also with the length of the rows in the center section, it was a large number of tickets you had to get out if there was a secret ballot. And at that town meeting, there were secret ballots, and there was some arguing over whether some people voted twice or some people didn't get any tickets, and it was very controversial. So I don't think we'll ever have another town meeting at the auditorium. And it's not as bad. When you had 2 or 3 nights, the problem with the high school gym is it ties up the gym for a week, especially if they go Monday, Tuesday, and then the following
But it was
Monday.
hard to get babysitters.
Yes.
It really was, because they were school nights, and it was very, very hard to get babysitters. Sometimes
Yes.
we would have to take turns. He'd go one night, I'd go the next night.
Right.
And then I
Yeah.
always felt like I wasn't taking part properly, but it's very difficult.
Well, and then how did you decide which night? Because I'm sure you and Andy voted on opposite on a lot of issues.
What's your funniest memory of town meeting?
Oh, well, there are several.
Some
I think
characters, I'm sure
yes,
we both remember some.
I always remember Hugo Ennis when he would get up there in his orange jacket with his orange and white plaid pants and his white belt and white patent leather shoes. And he would give his speech. You always depended on him to give at least one speech at town meeting. And I remember one year the moderator, he got up to speak for about his 3rd time, and the moderator said to him, would you please identify yourself? And Hugo turned and looked at the crowd and said, they know who I am.
That's one of my favorite memories, is Hugo.
Then another night I remember was when they had, there was an article that was put on by petition to zone the entire town for, I think it was 3 acres. And it was quite controversial. There were a lot of people that came, and in those days, a lot of people wore suits and ties to town meeting.
Yes, they did. They always dressed up.
Yes, you see very little of that now. Few people do, but most people dress more casually. So there were a lot of, I guess you call it the shirt and tie crowd out in the audience, and that had come, I think, because of that article. And it got to be quite a debate, and I remember Floyd Hours from Floyd and Glenn's got up, and his famous line was, "If you want to live on 3 acres, buy it." So, yeah, that got a round of applause. And then Walter Nye Sr. got up, and he was our plumbing inspector at the time, and he had his trademark bib coveralls on and plaid shirt, and you could see some of the audience looking askance and saying, "Oh, what's this guy going to say?" And Walter got up and started quoting from the Federalist Papers and Patrick Henry and the Constitution, and you could see their faces change, that this guy knows what he's talking about. He's probably read those things, and we haven't even read them. But he gave a rather remarkable speech as to why you shouldn't zone the town for that. And the article did get down in defeat. So, and there have been others. I don't think we have the characters today that we used to.
I don't think we have very many at all.
No, it seems like it's a little bit duller. Now maybe that's why we can get through it faster too.
Okay.
It might be an improvement in that sense.
But there's some good things too. Like I remember years ago, Willis Pelagian said something on a different article at town meeting. He wasn't on any board, and he spoke up. And he spoke so clearly and so well. I found out who he was, and I called him and said, we always have people, spots in different committees that are available,
Yes.
and would you be interested in that? And he's been on a committee ever since.
He's been terrific. He was
And
on
he's
the
been
water.
a great asset.
He was on the radio tower study committee. He was on the water and sewer board.
Yeah.
So
I did that a couple of times. I would call somebody that spoke well at town meeting and ask if they would be interested.
yes.
But one of my other
Yeah.
favorite things, I think it was in a Warren hearing though, when we were talking about the leash law. And somebody got up and said, "Leash my grandmother, but don't leash my dog." And I love that one.
Yeah, I remember hearing about that. That was the same year as the swimming pool, I think, wasn't
Yeah,
it?
the swimming pool was
yeah,
a big one.
Yeah. But I also remember one, it wasn't so pleasant experience. There was a group that wanted to, put some Little League fields in or do something with Little League fields and or softball fields, maybe it was. And they all came in uniform with their cleats. And whatever they were looking for, the article was defeated. And they got up en masse and stomped out with their cleats slamming on the floor. And it was kind of, a little fit of temper. That it was too bad. But that's democracy in action. So
But it was fun because for 35 years, I sat up front. 30 years as a selectman and then 5 years on the Warren Committee. So I could get to see everybody. And it was amazing how many people sit in the same blooming chairs at every
Yes,
town meeting.
yes.
And one town meeting, the Temples weren't there. Ben and Fred Temple weren't there. In their usual seats, second row in, right near the aisle. So I called the next morning. One of them was in the hospital. I figured it had to be that because you weren't in your chair the night before.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
It's really weird how even today people still do that.
Yes.
Sit in the same seats.
Yeah. And there's a group that love to sit up in the bleachers at the back of the room so they can get a view of the whole thing.
Yeah.
I think it's gotten much better the last couple of years. The sound has gotten much better thanks to Chris Allen. He does a terrific job.
He does do a good job.
With the sound at town meeting. The screen, you can see the screen now much more clearly than you used to be able to. Before it was very sort of hazy and you couldn't see things very well. We still don't get a huge attendance for it, which either means it's one of several things. I guess the seats are too uncomfortable, the meeting goes on too long, or they're very happy with the town and they don't feel they need to go.
That's exactly.
Or they're very unhappy with the town and feel they don't have the votes to change it. So, but in any event, the town goes on, and as it has for 360 some years now, I guess it is. So,
Because I remember when there was an article to build those condos on Brook Street, and there was a lot of controversy about it. It was a town meeting article to allow it to be rezoned for that kind of use, and it passed. And I got a complaint call the next day from somebody who lived on Brook Street, and I said, "Were you at the town meeting?" He said, no. I said, well, there you go. If you had been there and spoken up and said something, maybe you would have made a difference.
Yes, yeah.
You might have. You never know.
Yeah, and of course these days, I don't know if you have heard about it, but there was a group that came in that's proposing to put 200 40B units on about 6 acres at the intersection of North Meadows Road and Dale Street. 3 acres on either side. One of them is that sort of hole opposite the cemetery, across Dale Street from the cemetery, and the other is sort of behind the town garage. Talking about 90 units on the cemetery side, 110 on the town garage side, 3 and 5 story buildings, really packing them in. And we just heard about it last week, and with the state government these days, there's really not too much you can do. They approve just about anything if you haven't got your 10%. That's why I've been urging for years that we do something positive to move forward with it, so we don't impact one area too much. I think we should have done, my opinion, and I know it's not universally agreed upon, is we should have done something at the state hospital.
I agree with you. I voted for that, and I liked it.
Yes, but
I
there
like
are some people that want nothing, period, up there. And there are others that want to save all the buildings, and so it's tough when you have a lack of unanimity. And unfortunately, what happens is if you create a vacuum, someone comes along to fill it, and that's what's happening with this proposal. It's incredibly dense by Medfield standards. But the town didn't come up with a plan to do anything to meet our 40B requirement. And so we may be stuck with it. We'll try to negotiate it. But really not a lot of changes you can make on these projects, because the state will approve virtually anything. So, it bothers me that, if you're going to have that many units, what are they going to do for playgrounds? They're talking about 2 stories of underground parking, which is a first for Medfield.
Yep, it is.
They're talking about a couple of, I don't know, it's roads or sidewalks into Allendale, which I don't think you want to put cars from a 110-unit building into a 17 unit small subdivision with narrow roads.
Right.
So, but we'll see. Those are the things that have to be worked out. And when people say, well, why does the town allow it? The voters allowed it. There was a question to rescind 40B on the ballot a few years ago, and by
I voted to rescind it, but
57% of the voters in the state voted to keep it.
so did
So
most
we
of
have to live with it.
I was very surprised.
Well, you had the state government, the Builders Association, the Contractors Association, the housing, the real estate industry, the churches. It was a whole lobbying group in support of it, and they were able to defeat the rescinding of it. So
I'm still on the Affordable Housing Committee, and we do have a meeting coming up.
yeah, that's right. You people meet once a year on that anyway. So
Well, we're going to be meeting more than once a year now.
I think you will. Yes, yeah. So.
For sure.
But it's, there was some concern about the park that went up down on West Street, whether that would impact the schools. And I think last year there were 34 kids out of the 92 units. So it hasn't had a huge impact on the schools. I think somebody's mentioned that there might be about 40 kids this year out of 92 units, so that's less than a half per unit. So, but with 200 units, I don't know what you'll end up with. They say it's going to be 25% affordable and 75% market, but some of these other ones that start out that way end up as 100% affordable because they can't attract people to pay the type of rents they're looking for at market rate, but we'll see. On that note, we'll try to get back to funny things at town meeting, I think, yes. So,
I have one goof I made.
you do.
My first year as chairman of the warrant committee, I'd never been good about speaking in front of crowds. I'm getting a little bit better, not great, but a little better. But it was my first year as the chairman. I was the only woman on the committee. And I had to introduce all the eight men. And so I wrote down the names as I sat in the various seats. I wrote down the names, and I thought, I don't need to write down this guy's name. Andy Ebert and I have actually become good friends. His wife joined my tennis group. And we've become good friends and went out to dinner occasionally with other people. So I said, I'll remember his name. So I listed the first 7. I said, this is my vice chairman. I looked and I thought, who the heck is this guy? And he just sat there with a stupid grin on his face. He was not going to tell me at all. And finally somebody from the audience yelled out, it's Andy Ebert. So when we had a party after town meeting, the warrant committee, as you remember, used to have a party with the selectmen after town meeting. And
Did you give him a name tag to put on so you could?
No, Dick Middlesworth used to run a tire store down in Walpole, I think, and he bought his sign, and all night long the sign flashed on, "Hi Ann, my name is Andy Ebert. Hi Ann, my name is Andy Ebert." Lucille Middlesworth was cracking up. She was a teacher at the school. She thought it was fun. It was fun.
Yes.
But we had a lot of enjoyment out of the committee work, I think,
Yeah.
and also the town meeting, and that was good to be able to laugh about something.
I always remember my first faux pas at town meeting. My first night, I was 28 when I started, but a month later I turned 29. So the first town meeting I was 29, and
Okay.
I was not used to speaking before crowds that big. And Billy McCarthy, who was the superintendent of public works, he's the one they named McCarthy Park after, up at Hospital Road. He kept urging me to get up and oppose a $2,000 cut the warrant committee had made for some item in the highway budget. So I said, okay. So I got up and gave this impassioned speech for why they shouldn't cut that $2,000. And the chairman of the warrant committee got up and said, I hate to disagree with our new town administrator, but that isn't the $2,000 we cut. It was another $2,000 item they had cut. So I had to sit down with my tail between my legs and a very red face, which I can get very easily. I just said, I stand corrected, and sat down. So
Maybe this is why some people don't like to talk.
yes,
Could be.
but I was kidding. I kidded for years Billy McCarthy about that, how he gave me the wrong cut. So
He's a good guy.
yes, he was. He was very funny. I'll tell you a funny story about Billy. When they were putting all the sewer projects in town, they were running a sewer line from Phillip Street through a bunch of backyards out to South Street, and then it went across South Street under the railroad tracks and into along Kingsbury Pond, and that way to get out there. So they had it all dug up. It was a mess, and a woman called up. She was furious because she had her laundry out and it was getting dust all over the place, and so she went down and she was laying us out in lavender, which we deserved. And she had a tiny little dog, one of those little, I don't know what type it was, but it was a little fluffy, tiny dog. And Billy McCarthy was a chain smoker at the time.
I remember that.
And while she was hollering at us, he was flicking his cigarette, and all of a sudden I saw him bend down and he was patting this dog, and I thought, he's trying to play up to her by patting her dog. So we're walking back to the car, and he said, boy, that was lucky. I said, what do you mean? I said, we just got screamed at for 10 minutes. He said, yeah, but he said, I accidentally set her dog on fire. I said, you what? He said, I was flicking the ashes, and all of a sudden I looked down and I see smoke coming out from the dog. So he said, I didn't want to let her know. I was already in trouble enough, so I was patting the dog, trying to get the ashes out of the dog. So
I love it. There are some good stories in a small town.
Yes, yeah.
There really are.
Yeah.
And good stories about a lot of good people.
And some of the best ones you don't hear for years, 2 years later. So, but you have to wait till the cast of characters has changed so
Yeah.
you can tell the
Still,
stories.
it's wonderful when people tell the different stories, their memories of different
Yes.
people.
That's what I always admired about Ken Feeney, when he'd get up at town meeting. It's one thing to laugh at other people, and that humor can be go very wrong. But Ken always made fun of himself.
Mm-hmm.
And I think people appreciate that, if you can laugh at yourself and not take yourself too seriously, it goes a long way with people.
Good people.
Yes, we've lost some good people. We had a party for the barbecue down the town garage in honor of Bobby Kennedy Sr. and Ken Feeney. The two of them both retired this year, and
It's a big loss for both.
yes, and between the two of them, they had 104 years of service.
Mm-hmm.
And you tell people that, they look at you and say, "You crazy? What age did they start?" Well, Bobby Kennedy, I think, Senior started at around age 18.
Because he's my age and he just retired.
Yes, yes. And somebody said he actually worked part-time in the cemetery before that, or shoveling snow or
Wouldn't be
something before
surprised.
that. So. And Ken was just about 40 years he worked for us, and Bobby Sr. was 64 years. So it's remarkable. You just don't see that anymore. People change jobs. What do they say? The average person will have 7 different jobs in a lifetime, 7 different careers, not just jobs,
Sometime
7 different
one of
fields.
these interviews with you, when we have very little news, we should each make a list of our most interesting characters. Like, to me, Freddie Rogers is one.
Yes, yeah.
Freddie
Fred
Rogers
was-
in his
yes,
wheelchair, to me, was the ultimate in courage.
yes,
And very, very bright. Some people didn't like him. He could be sharp. He could tell you exactly what he thought. And whenever I made a vote he didn't like, he would call me up at work the next day, and I'd pick up the phone. He'd say, "Selectman Thompson?" I'd say, "Yep." He'd say, "This is Dispatcher Rogers about that vote you made last night." And he'd chew me right out. And then every time I ran, he'd put one of my bumper stickers on his wheelchair.
yes.
He liked to
yes.
say what he thought.
Well, and you could take it. You were big
Absolutely.
enough to take it. So some
but
people would.
But he's one of my favorite characters, and
Yes.
I have a whole list. I bet you do too.
Yes, yeah.
We should do that sometime. Favorite characters in Medfield.
That would be fun.
Floyd Hours would be on the list. Hugo Ennis would be on the list.
Yes, yeah. Laura Smith.
Laura Smith would be on the list.
Yes,
That's right.
yeah. There's a lot of those people have gone.
Harry Kelleher is another one.
I kid some people. I say, "Boy, I've been here so long. I know more people in the cemetery than out."
Jeez. Well, I'm not quite there yet, but I'm getting closer. Probably.
Aren't we all closer than we'd like to? So,
Well, anything else for today?
well, I think that's probably enough for one day. We've, as I said, school's starting next week, so the traffic will be picking up, and all of us who've gotten used to crossing 109 without much work will suddenly find that it's a big job to get across the street. To actually the new stores, I don't know if you've seen, they're remodeling Casablanca and the buildings, the stores in that Zillow block.
Oh, Casabella.
Casablanca,
You said
Casablanca,
Casablanca.
Casablanca,
Where was
yeah,
that
the
one?
movie, yeah, Casabella. And they're going to do the barbershop next, and then I think the jewelry store. And the windows are sort of matching the windows at Brothers.
I remember when Mr. Zula was killed on the North Street, right near his house.
Yes, yeah. And then the other thing, we do have, Zebras has changed its concept. It's now called the Nosh and Grog.
Okay.
And
Went there last night?
it's very different inside. It's one big room with a big 3-sided U-shaped bar in the center, and seems to be doing a booming business. Boy, you go in there and it's
Avenue seems to doing well.
doing a business.
I
Yes,
hope
yeah.
Noon Hill Grill's doing well. I hope Basil's still doing well. I
Yes,
want them all to.
I know. It seems to be that the more restaurants you get, the more business we get, and I think a lot of people are coming from out of town now to these places too. That
Good, as long as they pay their bill and we get the taxes.
That's right. Yes, it's a good thing we adopted that local meals tax.
I voted for that.
Yes, I did too. And it generates about $10,000 a month.
Oh, that's not bad.
Not bad at all.
It's more than I make.
Yes.
No
More-
pension, huh?
Yes. But
Okay.
I was figuring we may get, $6,000, $7,000 a month, but it's really,
great.
yeah, and that was before, so we still haven't got the results with Avenue on for
Yeah,
3 months.
that'll change too.
So that will change. And
Always the Mohawk, every one of them.
yes,
They
yep,
do.
yep. The other place that should be opening shortly, but the sign's been saying that for months, is the place where Dillon's used to be.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be called Cutlets, and
I've
it's
keep hearing about it, but
yeah, it's sort of takeout food. I think they're going to have a few tables inside, but a lot of it is takeout, and it's not just sandwiches. I understand it's meals.
Okay.
Yeah, so, their parents have when they came to the selectmen's meeting for their permit. Their parents run a place similar in Dedham Square, so I can't remember the name of it, but so that'll be interesting.
good. Let's hope they do
I said
well.
it's getting harder and harder to go on a diet every time you come out to Town Hall and you just all you smell is
It's
these
food.
wonderful odors of
It
food.
does smell
So,
good.
yes,
Well, maybe you're smelling the politicians.
yes. Well, it was funny. I was looked out the window one Thursday night when they were having the band concert in Zulagari. The deck at Zulagari was full. There was a lot of people at the concerts. Avenue was packing them in. There were people walking up and down Main Street. There were people in the new Pocket Park that, if people haven't seen it, it's very interesting. It came out very nicely, I think.
Mm-hmm.
It did a nice job of it. And I said, boy, you really can't call the place Deadfield anymore.
That's
So
right.
the kids used to nickname Medfield Deadfield.
A long time ago
'cause-
they did.
Yes, and they probably have some other nickname for it now. But
That we probably don't want to discuss.
yes. But it certainly is lively downtown. And, of course, with that comes other concerns. I remember a few years ago people were saying, well, the downtown's dead, the stores, they're empty stores. It's going to be terrible. We're going to have boarded-up stores. And now everything is booming.
We're working hard on it.
And everybody's complaining about the parking.
Yeah,
So
we're really working hard on it.
I said, well, you can't have it both ways. If you want a
We do have
booming
to do
downtown,
Our
yeah.
committee, our Economic Development Committee, really needs to do something about the park. That's our biggest issue.
Yeah. Although I find, now I don't know what'll happen after Labor Day when everybody's back in town, but the parking really hasn't been that bad. You might have to walk a little bit. I remember when we were renovating the town hall, one of the architects said, everybody talks about a parking problem in Medfield, and she said, I've never been able to find a parking space in Medfield Center.
No.
She said, maybe I had to walk 200 feet instead of parking right next
We got a lot
the
of
door.
complaints about it, though.
I know, but sometimes it's they want to park right at it. So like you go to a mall and people drive around all over the place looking for parking space right near the door, so they can go in and walk 2 miles inside the mall. One night I had to park over by the Montrose School because the parking lot was full, but that's the only night I can remember when I had to park that far. A couple of times, maybe on James Avenue, but it's no big deal.
I know, we'll be talking about parking at committees all over town, but listen, thank you so much for coming again. And see what happens in a month and see what other news you have.
Well, it's always fun, and keep on knitting. Medfield Day is coming up shortly,
17th,
so
I believe.
yes.
And come look at our booth and make a donation to the Cancer Society, and you get a free scarf. So some of them are Medfield blue. So thank you very much for watching Medfield TV and happenings at the Town Hall in the town of Medfield. So I hope you'll tune in and watch on other shows as well. Thanks again, everybody.
The preceding was a production of Medfield TV.